what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Fucking do that? Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion to become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success. Welcome back, everyone, to the Coaches Show, the podcast dedicated to all things revolving around paintball coaching, the strategy, the theory, the processes, and the people who make this sport what it is. I'm Coach Mike Bianca of San Diego Dynasty. My co-host is Coach Ryan Gray of Red Legion. And this episode is number 66. Tonight, a coach we had interviewed at the end of last season and one that we couldn't wait to speak to, the coach of one of the newest professional paintball teams and the one that won their spot, Chris Fermoselle of Leverage, is with us tonight. We're going to ask him about his journey to coaching, his processes and philosophies, the why behind them, the first event, and how he plans to move the team forward after a difficult finish in Tampa. So stay tuned as we dive into this episode of the Coaches Show. This episode is brought to you by Maxed Sportswear. If you're playing the NXL or regional league, contact Charles today for contingency details. Trust us, it will be well worth your time to reach out. Remember, for all your custom paintball goods, get Maxed and BKI, the best knowledge in paintball. If you want to elevate your game, join BKI. New platform and content is on the way. Use code COACHSHOW to let them know you heard it here on the show. BKI, where you can quite literally learn from the best one-on-one. And don't forget, if you're a manufacturer, brand manager, store, or field owner and would like to support the show, we'd like to talk to you. We have a new pricing structure for 2025, and we're pretty eager to discuss it with you and how we can partner with you. Please contact Ryan through our social media channels or Ryan at thecoachesshow.live. I have a little bit of a frog in my throat tonight. I had a lot of fun at work today, so bear with me tonight, everyone. Ryan, how are you, sir?
I'm wonderful. Yeah, you sound like you've been gargling
nails.
Yeah. But you made it through the intro, even though I'm sure it was a little bit painful. So
just a little.
Yeah. Man, I'm excited about this one. So anytime we have a coach on, you guys will notice like Mike and I kind of vigorously taking notes and writing things down. And, we had Chris on kind of before the season, right at the end of last season, just discussing kind of what their plan was and sort of what it was going to look like. We're now through the first event. And we've seen, Leverage did not have a great first event. We're in a couple of matches, had opportunities to win two matches. We'll talk about kind of the reasons why maybe things didn't go their way in those. And then, what's going to happen, at the next event? What are we going to see as far as change? The other thing, if you guys didn't notice, is Chris Caputo really didn't play much at the event. So we want to get that question answered. Why wasn't, on paper, their best player, why wasn't he playing? So, I'm excited to have Chris back on and get some of these questions answered.
Yeah, I have a few myself.
Chris, welcome.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, thanks for joining us. We're looking forward to speaking with you, man.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to all your questions, going over the last event and getting right into it.
Excellent. Real quick, Chris, I kind of want to jump in things a little bit, maybe rehash a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Leverage and their journey to the pro division. Leverage came back to the national scene in 2021. I think you only played 2 events in D2, taking third at both, by the way. You followed that up with an entire season in D2 the following year, taking second overall in the series. In 23, you make the jump to semi-pro, but you only played 3 events. Following that up in 24 with a top 3 finish at all 5 events, of course, winning the coveted pro spot. So I have a quick question real quick. Why the on and off on some of the seasons. And obviously you're pro now. What are some of the issues that you guys have had coming up through this journey?
So to be quite frank and be very transparent, throughout all that time frame that you just reviewed, right? It really just came down to scheduling and players' availabilities and commitment levels during those specific times and right seasons that you just mentioned. Um, Leverage has been, although I've joined, as you mentioned, not too long ago, they've been a team that's been around a long time here in the tri-state area, and you've always had this kind of fluctuation of new and great players that have come out of that camp, come and gone. And so basically, as I kind of joined and the time frame that I joined, it started to really solidify the people that were playing, the people that really wanted to stick around, which are obviously a lot of the people that you see out there now, right on the pro field or semi-pro year. But yeah, I mean, it was just really about commitment, really hashing out. People ended up dropping off, and we really wanted to see who was going to stick around and really wanted to ride it out and, continue to chase the dream of achieving the professional spot, right? So hopefully that can answer your question. I know it's a lot, but I think if hopefully that'll clear it up for you a little bit.
No, it makes perfect sense. And so now you've got a solidified roster. Here we are in the pro division. We talked about your goals that you were setting for the season. So let's get into this. Ryan, do you want to hop into maybe talking about the event, or do we want to talk about a build up preparing for the event?
Yeah, let's talk about preparation first, and then we'll kind of get into the event. So when the layout drops, kind of walk us through the process. So when do you guys begin your preparation process? When do you begin your work? And what does that look like for you?
I understand. So definitely going off of our first show that we did together, we actually reviewed that. You guys had asked me almost a similar question, how we prepare in the off season, especially being here in the Northeast, right? With that being said, it is 100% correct that the weather was just killer over here, at least up here in New York, New Jersey, freezing temperatures we're talking about, right? People really were not going to the field. So we did not have a good recipe leading up to the event and the layout practices per se. A lot of teams had difficulties practicing out here, not just us. So to be honest, we really didn't get a really good practice session going into the event. We did what we could. We ended up practicing against TPP, which is actually one of the semi-pro team that ended up winning the event. They've been coming around to our field there at Quick Shot. So we're happy that, they got to play us, and we could say that we, helped them out a little bit. But I think when you're at this level, obviously we're going to get into it. This isn't semi-professional anymore, right? We need to play better talent. We need to play better teams, professional teams, which we did a mixture of in our semi-professional run, but we did not have that going in. So again, just being quite honest, we thought we were going to have different preparation plans. We thought we were going to be able to do a lot better. Unfortunately, it just didn't manifest. And I'm not going to go beat around it. That was the honest truth. We didn't have a great practice. The 2 weekends leading up to the event, didn't have a great practice. Unfortunately, due to, again, which we'll get into, scheduling conflicts, players' availabilities, this is the first time we didn't even get to practice Thursday at the event. Which is massive, right? Obviously, I know you guys know that every other professional team is out there practicing the field, and it's the very first time that we did not do it. Obviously, it's not the greatest going into our first professional event, but that definitely obviously makes a huge change. You're getting to test out the field, test out the lanes, bounce shots, get the jitters off of the players. And so we had about half of our team that showed up earlier in the day, and the other half unfortunately couldn't make it till the end of the night. So leading into the event, we were definitely coming out flat. It was not the best scenario. On top of that, we've had to deal with some major injuries as well. So let's start off with Caputo, right? I know that's a question that we wanted to get into. Caputo is currently in the Fire Academy right now. It's his career that he's been working his entire life to do, right? I think we all understand that sometimes a career has to come before this. We all know how committed Caputo has been to this sport. He's given it his all. And so he, unfortunately, for the first event and going into this event, it's a similar situation that he will not be available the first day. So he will be showing up on Saturday again. We can get back into him in a little bit, but besides Caputo, Zach Moran, our team captain, another one of our best players. Unfortunately, he actually had double knee surgery. I'm not sure if I ever mentioned that to you earlier in the other show that we did, but
No.
he had double knee surgery this past couple months, and so he was out for the event. We probably played him maybe about 3 points total, because that's how committed he is to recovering and getting back out on the field. But obviously, it's not beneficial. It's not really going to do anything for us.
Not gonna do
And
anything for
last,
him either.
yeah, and him either. So we wanted to make
Oh,
sure.
jeez.
Listen, it was one of those things of was his dream to accomplish, right? Get on the professional field. So he kind of just wanted to get out there, right? And lastly, one of our other star players, Frankie Prosciutto, he unfortunately could not make the event as well. So we're talking about three to four of our starters that we had our whole the fourth one being Jake on PB Fit now, Jake Sibal. He ended up leaving to go to PB Fit. So we had four of our starters that actually just were non-existent in this first event. So with that being said, though, again, I'm sure we'll get into it. I do want to give credit to the guys that we did have, and I believe that they stepped up tremendously. We saw a lot of people making names for them, get their names out there at least in front of everyone. So just kind of tying it all together in terms of preparation with all these things that we just kind of went over, it was tough. It was really tough. I'm as a coach, I'm not going to go in there and expect to win the tournament, right? It's very hard when you're going up against teams such as yours, where you guys are, practicing day in, day out. You have your players to use. We were just not set up correctly, and I'm sure we'll get into what we're going to do next for this event coming up.
Wow, that lends me to a whole new segue of different questions. So heading into the event, obviously the weather was difficult and a lot of different things. So understanding, like, when you're managing those expectations that, hey, this is what it's going to take to be competitive in the professional division. And as things started to filter in that we weren't going to have the greatest start liftoff in preparation for the first event, as a coach, what are some of the steps that you took to mitigate the impact of that?
Right. Well, so during those 2 weeks that we had leading up to the event, I had to make sure that I was running the guys that obviously we were going to have at the event. So getting these guys more reps, making sure that they could gel together more right on the field. We're talking about these guys that were actually like the second string during that semi-professional season of ours. So we're really using our entire bench at this point almost, with the addition of with Dom. So Dom from Newbies, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him. And so we have 3-4 new bench players. We have new players that are added to the team. So we really wanted to get as much practice out of these guys as we could. And again, I think it did pay off to a certain extent, but in terms of mitigating everything, it's really working with what we have, getting these guys as much reps as we can prior to the event. I wish we could have practiced that Thursday. Unfortunately, we couldn't, but there's really not much more I could home in on that. I mean, I think it's a tough situation. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Ryan. What were you going to say? Yeah,
no, I was just going to say, like, kind of with the understanding that you were going to be limited for your roster from an experience perspective, right? You were going to be having limited guys with experience. Why not travel for that first practice and get somewhere else where, one, the weather's nicer,
right,
and two, where you can play a couple of other teams, get a couple of other looks, and have opportunities to play as many points as you can, because where it's not going to be super cold in the morning. I don't know, like, come to Florida. I think there were like 11 teams here.
There were.
Just at Tiki's, I think there were 11 teams. Yeah. And then at Legacy, I know there were 3 or 4 teams over there. I think a lot of the teams, especially from the Northeast and the Midwest, the North Midwest, they come down here or go to Texas, right? When it's like San Antonio X Factor, I know had 3 teams down there. Was that ever part of the discussion? Like, hey, maybe we should get the hell out of the Northeast and try to get somewhere warm?
So to be honest, in the beginning, it definitely wasn't. It was we were trying to make it work at our new field that we're
Sure.
partnered up with our sponsor, main sponsor, Quick Shot. So we were trying to make some things happen there that didn't unfold into what we thought it could be. The weather obviously didn't help. Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse with that, but
Yeah, of course.
I will get to the fact that moving forward and leading into preparation for this event, we are taking those necessary steps in terms of making sure that we're playing high quality caliber teams.
It's going to be quite different, right? Going into Atlantic City, because people are going to come up there, right? So
Right.
you'll have a lot of the teams. I know, like us, we're traveling up.
Yeah, we're going to be playing. We're going to be seeing you guys along with Aftershock, which is we're really excited for that.
Yeah. So there's going to be going into this next event. You've satisfied really the one part of the problem that you guys have. And I'll be honest, we're going to talk about these penalties later, but it's my experience that when you have poor preparation, that's when penalty bugs really arise, because they don't know all the little intricate places they can get shot in. They don't know all the little spots from A to B, and especially not from A to Z, where they're going to where they're going to potentially take a ball, right? Because you guys didn't have like a ton of majors, but man, you guys had a ton of minors, ton of minors. So, and again, I know we're going to talk about that when we get into talking about Tampa, but I can tell you from my experience, and Mike may have a different perspective, but it's always been my experience that when we don't prepare well is when I notice my team gets a lot of penalties, right? Because they're unsure of, which gap is safe, which one is not, all the different little things they have to check off on before going. So that's probably a key factor in the number of penalties you receive.
Yeah. When it comes to minor penalties, I would agree with you. If you're getting a tremendous amount of minor penalties, these pack hits, these little nicks there and there, I would say that it probably is poor preparation. If it's a couple of majors, you got a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Right. People are not being honest.
Not a personal problem. Yes.
Right. So that's the thing there. One of the things I was looking for, because I'm weird like this, Chris, and it's funny, but I believe the mind's the weapon. And so a lot of the times when I know that, okay, I'm not going to get a lot of on-field time, or it's going to be this issue, or we got rained out, or whatever it was, I try to work their brains. I'll get them inside a room, or I'll get them on a Zoom call, or I'll put them in front of a TV. We'll watch tape. We'll do something cerebral to help understand and play that. Did you guys consider or do any of that to try and alleviate?
Unfortunately not. Again, just being transparent, trying to put out, we're trying to put out fires left and right, and we put one out and kind of another one is showing up. Right. So,
that goes.
And again, just being upfront, it's all a new experience for us. Right.
That's what I was going to say. Like, don't feel weird about saying that, because all the things you're describing are new professional team problems. Everything that you've said thus far, like thinking, hey, some of the things we did in semi-pro, those will work because we found success there. It's just different when you get here. It's different. And I want to answer this question because I think it's important. It sounds like becoming a pro requires significantly more financial investment than competing at the semi-pro level. You betcha.
Yeah.
You betcha.
Yes, it definitely does. It definitely does.
So hopefully, Chris Kurtz, that answers your question. Is cost an issue? It certainly can be. It certainly can be.
I would say, just kind of going back to Ryan's question in terms of maybe considering flying out, right? Of course, as I kind of answered that we weren't really thinking about it. We tried setting up things coming to us, but financial, it could be, not that it could, it is for us at that time. It was for us at that time. It wasn't even really an option to really kind of have everyone fly out. We don't have a major sponsor, right, that's going to be flying us out in terms of that aspect yet. Are there things that we're working on now? Of course, again, knowing these things and be learning experience. We may not be able to fly, but maybe we can definitely drive somewhere, right? We can meet in the middle somewhere, type of thing, right? So we can't take the same route that we've been doing and expect to be better. We need things to change, right? Something has to change. So
that's the bad science experiment, right? We keep doing the same things over and over, and we just get the same result.
Exactly.
I think somebody calls that insanity. I don't know who, but some people.
Yeah. This is a good one.
That
And
is.
it kind of leads us into exactly what we're talking about. What is the practice schedule? How was the weekend at Creek with NYX and Wolfpack?
So yeah, which was great, and we'll get into again going into this next event. We are making sure we are playing high quality caliber teams, right? Professional teams. We have our practice set up with you guys. Ryan, Aftershock will be coming. But to answer the question, we just came off yesterday on Sunday practice. We ended up doing a New York Extreme, Wolfpack, and we had New Jersey Jesters over at another field locally by us. And it was actually it was the first time we really got a chance to have a great practice, match formats. Field was shut down just to host us all. And that's really what a practice should be. And of course, I know that you guys are constantly doing that. It's something, again, that I think the Northeast teams have been trying to really get down because, like you said, a lot of the times everyone's traveling somewhere else, but we're trying to establish a kind of a home camp over here where we can get teams to come to us. And I think that's also another benefiting factor for us being professional now is, again, like Ryan, you're coming up to visit us, right? When we were playing semi-pro, that's probably not going to happen, right? You guys got to go play another professional team, right? So leading into AC, we just came off the practice on Sunday yesterday, right? We have the practice coming up with you guys, and we're going to continue to see what else we can do. I think we're going to do another run at the NYX practice again. So, but I definitely want to revisit that as I'm sure we'll talk about our matches, but kind of a correlation after playing Impact. I'll just say it right now, just getting after playing Impact, everyone on the team noticed that this is the quality of paintball and devotion and skill that we have to go against. We cannot accept anything lower than that. Kind of jumping around a little bit, but I'll kind of take a pause. Maybe we could talk about it later if you guys want. It's up to you guys.
No, we talk. Man, the show flows as it goes. Let's talk about it.
There's no script here, brother.
Cool. I was just gonna say, listen, at the matches that we had, we can dive into, right? I think as a team attitude and kind of what I saw, maybe what you guys think, obviously you can chime in. But the first three matches we had, we felt like we could compete with these guys. Okay, like we held our own. A lot of close points. I mean, I know that the score doesn't necessarily show that, but if you go look back, there were a lot of close points. It wasn't that we were kind of getting blown out every single point. Obviously, 2 games that led into overtimes that we lost by 1 point. Unfortunately, the Aftershock match came down to an overtime penalty, swing point automatically. It was a 5-on-1 we're talking about. And it was very frustrating to have that happen. That rule is kind of crazy, which personally I wish we could talk about in a way. But I understand that happens because of the old school mentality of teams doing a flying V type of thing and trying to avoid some sort of stuff like that. But when that happened, what I wanted to get to is that Mike, I believe Dynasty was there, Ironman were there. A lot of the pro teams were watching that match.
So I was watching it.
Right. Yeah. So we came back from 3-0. We ended up tying it going into the overtime. And we got kind of, in my personal opinion, I don't think it was the right call. I think it was super, super close. And just to throw away all that hard work over that little thing, it's just very frustrating. But what I'm getting at is the great thing is all you guys were watching. And a lot of the guys came up to us, the players, and saying, giving us respect. That's ultimately what I wanted to get to. And at the event, the guys, if anything, we left there happy because we got the respect of the players. We wanted to. The goal going into that tournament was, listen, we might not expect first place, but we want to show people that we can ball, that we're going to be in your face. We're going to be putting up points as much as we can. And I think we definitely accomplished that. Getting into the Impact game now, which is what I wanted to get to, is playing Impact is a whole nother level of paintball, guys. Guys, I know you guys are top teams too. Congratulations at the event as well. I could say the same for you. I'm trying to be as prepared as I can to play you guys as well, right? But Impact we're talking about coming off the box, our home guys getting shot in the face immediately. Like the lanes were on point. The guys would tell you like they felt like they were getting shot by 20 guys all at once. Just obviously impossible. But the quality of paintball that these guys play, the time that they put in, the practice they do for just the basic foundations of lane-ins, right? Lane practice, communication. You get to really see and experience why Impact is such a great team, right? A historic team. So we now have our bar. That's our bar. Like you cannot do anything less. We need more from everybody, not less. We need you to put in even more hard work, because if not, we're never going to be able to compete against top quality teams like yourselves.
Andrew
And not to take away from the other lower teams. Sorry.
Yeah, and Impact was your fourth match too. So
Yes.
they had scouted you. They had got their guns were hot. So
the thing is, we were running obviously with the 5 to 6 people. Again, roster issues being there. Of course, they knew exactly where we were going at every single time. It was hard to kind of switch things up again with the limited people that we had. But yeah, a lot of it's crazy. Like the scouting that they have on us, going into the professional tournament. Also, I guess we can chime in on this. It's again a whole nother level of organizations that you're dealing with, right? Both of your teams, you guys have numerous coaching staff, pit crew and all this help, right? We're kind of just making it happen as we go, and we could definitely step it up. But it's a whole nother level to kind of let these guys know that are watching the show, lower divisional teams. It's a whole nother caliber of an experience of what it takes to compete at this level. It's not a joke, and at the end of the day, it's a great. We're happy to be here, but we've definitely recognized the amount of work that we have to put in leading up to this event to get ourselves out of that 20th place, and obviously and do better for this coming event.
Yeah, see, that's something that a lot of coaches or teams, for that matter, overlook. They're so focused on their game that they forget about the things that they probably should have taken care of. I'm one of these people who believes in preparation's not just preparing for the event, it's preparing for the event. Even before I was a professional coach, when I was in semi-pro, when I was in D2, D3, D4, once we decided we were playing an event, who's our pit crew, who's our pod runner, who's doing this, who's responsible for that, where are we staying, what time are we getting there, why are we getting there at this time, what's the agenda? And the reason why you do things like that is so once you get that done, it's out of the way, it's taken care of. Now you focus, and all you guys have to do is focus. You're not getting there going, hey, who's got the pods? You already have all that stuff, and you're just focusing on being the best team you can possibly be.
Of course, and allowing the players to focus on playing the game, So,
yeah, that's honestly one of the reasons that Red Legion brought me in. They already have 2 coaches. That's one of the reasons they brought me in, is just to relieve more of the responsibility from the players from a scouting perspective, and then kind of trying to understand another team's meta, like how they want to play the field. Like it was really interesting when I got to to Tampa, and they explained to me my role. I was like, that's all you need me to do? And they said, yes. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, this is great. But I think I mentioned this the last time you were on the show, and it's a true sentiment. It's easier to get to the pro division than it is to stay in it. It's easier to get here than it is to stay in it. And I don't mean that you're going to be relegated. What I mean is the mental, emotional, and physical toll that it can take on you because of the amount of energy, effort, and work that it takes to really be competitive in this is tremendous. It's a lot of, especially the emotional part. Like, if you're in the league for 7-8 years and you're a bottom 10 team, it's really hard to want to stick around. It's hard to want to continue to do the work and continue to put in all the effort. And it's really hard too, especially doing it the way you guys are doing it, much like the New Orleans Hurricanes, where you're trying to self-fund what's happening for the most part. It makes it so much more, it just adds another layer of difficulty and emotional stress, especially for guys who are married, right? And have families at home, and they're spending, thousands of dollars to go play these events. It's incredibly difficult to do. One, I want to say hats off to you guys for continuing to try to make it work. And I hope for all of your sakes that it does, but it is incredibly taxing, emotionally, to try to do what you guys are doing. So, But if you prepare significant, like much better, you will probably, again, this is just my experience, you will probably have a much better outcome.
Not only that, I mean, think about it this way. There is only one way to go, correct?
Right.
You know, when they
can only go up.
You hit the bottom, the only way to go is up. And obviously, you don't strike me, and Leverage doesn't strike me as the team that hits bottom and starts digging. So you know, I would imagine you probably want to climb. And I want to piggyback on something Ryan said. Ryan was brought, you know, I've been blessed. I've got Junior Brown, I've got Joey K, I've got a staff that the pit crew for Dynasty is. I mean, it's so
dream come true. I know
it really is. It is, and I love those guys. They're amazing, and I can't thank them enough. So it does relieve a lot and allows me to really focus on the team's performance. But I did want to highlight Joey K because he's in the chat, and he said the 7 P's, and the 7 P's are, you know, prior preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance. Right. So, and that's what I've always mean when I say I don't walk into a room I don't know how to walk out of. So, you know, long story short, you know, preparation, we can sit there and we can use that word a lot. We can talk about it anecdotally. We can do whatever we want. But until you start executing the plan, you know, got to get after it.
Of course.
Well, let's talk about the matches a little bit. So, and I've gone back and watched them all. The infamous score, you're right. Like you guys get 5-0'd by Infamous, but the points for the most part, you guys were in a lot of them.
Right.
You know, there was, I think, 1 or 2 that came down to one-on-ones or really low body situations on both sides. And it were small mistakes. Honestly, as a coach too, like as I'm watching it, they're mistakes that if my guys make, there's going to be a problem. If you're a first-year pro team, there are mistakes that you're like, okay, that kind of makes sense, right? Being a little bit lost in that situation, okay, I understand, right? And then you go in to the Aftershock match, I believe. Yep, you go into the Aftershock match, and you get it kind of a heartbreaker there. But again, I kind of mentioned this earlier with the penalties. You were in that match, but only kind of. And I say kind of just simply because you got so many penalties that you're not going to win. Like you're just not going to win. And here's the other thing that happens is to referees, just so you know, when a team starts getting a lot of penalties, they kind of start looking for it. They kind of start searching for it. And I watched that last exchange, and obviously I'm able to do it after the fact and stop the film. Was it a penalty? Maybe. Right. Yeah. Right. It was, if you could stop the film and see where he gets shot and where he pulls the trigger. Yeah. But like, could they see that with a naked eye? Probably not. Probably. It was pretty bang. It's fast. I had to freeze it.
We had this conversation, Ryan and I had this conversation. I was like, I don't agree. And you know, so,
but it is what I told Mike. I was like, he does get shot in the hip and pull the trigger. And again, I like froze it, and you could see the mark on his hip and see him pull the trigger. But again, could the ref see that with his naked eye? I don't know. Right. But again, I think when a team gets a lot of penalties, the refs kind of start looking for it. And you guys got a lot. I think there were only 2 points played in that you didn't get a penalty.
Yeah, it was definitely something like that. I think just to add on to that, although we could talk about it all day, whether the penalty was fair or not, but as a coach, you got to take, and as a team, as a player, you got to take responsibility and say, we shouldn't even be in this position in the first place.
That's my point. That's exactly my point. Is there's 3 of those points you should have won.
Yeah, of course.
Should have won.
Of course.
And the penalty took away your opportunity to close the game out.
Yeah.
You know, you're up bodies in 3 points that you got penalties at a terrible time where you have one guy in the middle, 2 guys on one side and one on the other, and it's these 2 guys who get the penalty. And so now the field is completely broken down with nobody on one side, and they have a player over there.
Right.
Yes.
And so, you know, whether it's just misfortune or whatever the case may be, the reality as a coach is like, hey, we should have won that. We should have never been in an overtime position to get the penalty to begin with. Right.
Exactly.
So then you guys move on to the Ironman, right?
No, it's Uprising.
Uprising. Really good match. That was a great
Yeah.
match, fun to watch. Were still a couple of penalty issues, but great match. You guys played, and they're a good team. They're a really good team.
Yeah.
And you're in it the whole time, and then you move on to play Impact, and exactly what you described earlier is what it looked like on film. They just shot you guys out of every spot. It wasn't like, I mean, they did shoot guys off the break, but they shot you guys out of spots.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say, honestly, it felt like every point was we lost one or two bodies off break. But in addition, yes, you're correct. Even when we made it, we were getting blasted out of there.
Yeah,
it looked like guys would make it.
Engagements.
Yes, like a guy would make it to a spot and immediately lose his first engagement, right? And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah, it was definitely tough. The one point that we had some sort of hope to score 1 point was when Dom had run down the center, and he actually, if you talk to him, he'll say that he actually hesitated a couple seconds because he was trying to see who he could shoot. He didn't realize that the snake was still in there, and he went to ring the buzzer. And we're talking about a millisecond of his hand is literally about to touch it, and they had to do the instant replay. Like that, we did the the review inside the booth, and I couldn't believe it. And he literally did get shot as he was literally like that far away from touching the buzzer.
Right.
So I just pointed back to the referee situation that it's a whole nother level here. It's cool to be able to have those sort of reviews because it'll go both ways. Everyone gets it both ways, right? But other than that, yeah, it was just it was a tough match. Different quality team that we're playing out there. Penalty situations did not help. We should not have been in those situations to begin with. As a coach during this past event, again, going back to the roster issues, it's tough as a coach to say, again, you have so many decisions when something like that normally happens on the field. When you have a full roster, was it the player's fault? Was it the referee who maybe made a stupid call? But at this point, I don't even have an option. I got to send the guy back out type of thing, right? So we only really had one extra body to kind of fill in. And again, as we all know, as we've seen on footage, it wasn't just one guy getting the penalties, right? It was multiple people who were getting it. And that it did not help the situation, did not help being a coach and trying to figure this all out right on the go. But definitely some challenges, definitely a lot of things that we learned about at the event. We see how things kind of are. We know the expectations that we have to give ourselves in order to be remotely close to have a completely different event going into AC. Yeah.
This is a great question from Eric Butner here. As a coach, what steps will you take to prevent the high penalty count for the next event? I ask because I'm the team I coach in D2 is in a similar situation. Yeah, good question, Eric.
So I think Mike, you said it before. Both of you mentioned it. Are we talking minor penalties? Are we talking major penalties? Right? Because there is a difference, right? If you're getting major penalties, that's more of an internal issue with a player who's just not being honest, right? Those were your words. So minor penalties, I think in terms of, it just comes down to preparation. Again, like Ryan said, getting out on the field, practicing more, knowing where these shots are coming from, knowing where they can get dinged out, like Ryan said. At the end of the day, it just comes down to getting on the field more, preparing more, getting guys more spins, and avoiding these situations where you just don't know where you're getting shot from or why that's happening, right? There's got to be a reason as to why is this happening. So is it something as simple as you don't even know that there's a lane there and you have no idea where you're getting shot from, right? These are things that you have to identify as a coach to give advice. I mean, I'm sure you guys can chime in, but again, what are we talking about? Minors? Are we talking about majors? Because two different conversations. I think just being prepared in advance will help minimize those risks, right?
Yeah, I agree. There is another aspect, and Eric, again, it does depend on what kind of penalties, who's getting them, how frequent they are, this sort of thing. But something that I do or used to do, and I used to take a lot of heat from other teams about it, other coaches about it, but it worked pretty well for my guys at the time. I made my guys play bounces at every practice. And the reason we did that is because, the budget I used to have, we were shooting 1 star. We were using cheap paint. And the what that helps your guys recognize is understand they're finding that envelope. All right, I made that mistake. I paid for that mistake. Now I got to trust the other 4 to pull it off, or I got to trust the other 3 to pull it off, what have you. So enforce, maybe, especially in D2. I think it's a really smart thing to do. Have your guys play bounces at practice. Maybe it doesn't have to be it for the entire practice at the layout, what have you, but maybe get them to understand where that envelope is, where they took that, if it's a skimmer, okay, fine. But if they take a solid hit to the chest or it bounces off the goggles, get out and see what kind of adjustment that makes at the next event. I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it also matters where you play. Like if you're playing in Florida, so if you think about where the tournaments are, a lot of times it's humid. Like we go to Tampa, Florida, then we go to Atlantic City. I don't know about Cleveland or Cincinnati, wherever the hell we're going. I don't know. And I know Dallas is humid, especially the time we're going to be there. So I do think it has a lot to do with where you play. Like when we play in Florida, we know if you're in the afternoon bracket, paint's going to get bouncy. I don't care how good you take care of the paint. It's going to get a little bouncy. So we don't play bounces. We don't come out on bounces. Like the guys check it, and if they're good, they continue to play. Like if you go back and watch the film, Kirill probably got 15 bounces up in the middle of the field and was checked multiple times. If he would have just called himself out, we may lose that point. So I think there's a methodology both ways. However, if you are getting penalties, what Mike is saying is 100% what you should be doing. Because at that point, like you're probably, especially if it's a chronic problem for one player, you might have a little bit of trust and selfish issues going on.
Cha-ching. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. All right, I do before I see you start a question, Ryan, and it's an excellent question, and I want to bring that. But before we do that, we were talking about the matches, like from the infamous to the Chicago Aftershock match. What was that conversation with the team in between? What kind of adjustments are you as a coach making, whether it be from a play perspective or maybe a mindset perspective? What are you telling your guys? What are you trying to do after their first match where they go 5-0? Any type of insight that you want to share with anyone on that, whether it is from a motivational perspective or from a tactical perspective, it's up to you.
Yeah. Well, let me start off by saying that before anything, what helped me in these situations is that the team, we made a promise to each other. We've been doing it since semi-pro. We've stepped it up in this area in terms of that everyone has to remain calm, right? The pit is everything. The moment, I'm sure we all know this, but maybe for the lower divisional teams who are experiencing these issues, which we've all gone through, you might have that one hot head of a player or maybe multiple of them, right? The guys remain calm. Again, we went into this tournament with zero expectations in terms of we have nothing to lose, right? Yeah. Obviously, we had the motivation and goal of trying to perform our best. But with that being said, the guys remained calm, trusted in each other, and played it point by point. And I think everyone could see that in those 2 matches that we were able to bring that back from being down 3-0. The other one was, I believe, almost a similar situation. But the point being that we trusted each other. The thing that changed really in there, if that was when we started to kind of have Travis Baskin, we switched him up. We said, you know what, let's throw something completely different. Let's try it out. And it ended up working for us. I think Trav did really well at the event for us.
Is that when you switched him to the Dorito side?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. The snake side. So,
okay.
Both ways. At the end of the day,
I just noticed earlier he was playing kind of one way, and then later he was on both sides.
Exactly. Yeah. So it benefited us, especially in that first day, almost a little bit towards the uprising match. But again, once you get into an impact, they have us scouted anywhere that they saw, whatever side they kind of knew we were trying to push that. And it was just hard to kind of counter with something different with the limited people that we had on the team. But anyway, the point is we just remained calm. The guys trusted it. We took it point by point. Leverage, we are known for, I don't want to say it's a great thing, but we've come back from a lot of situations in the past, especially in our semi-professional run. But we never give up on each other, man. And it's just point by point, trust your brothers out there, and you could win it. It's just, especially in this pro league, if you watching the matches again, being conscious of the time management. On that layout, I called it I called it very early a lot of the times, which eventually came back to help us because we were able to bring back those overtimes, right? Clock management is a huge thing, and you have to realize that you lose 2 people off break, or eventually you end up losing 2 people. At least at this level, it's going to be really hard to come back, and you have a better chance of, hey, let's run it again. Let's get the 5. Let's try to shoot someone off break and make it to our advantage, right? So I was definitely pressing that buzzer very early a lot of the times. That definitely helped as well in terms of kind of making that comeback.
Yeah, I thought your clock management was great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's something we've learned. Like, it's, again, it was something of a culture that came to us in semi-pro. It's like, you give us 10 points against you, in a way, like, we're gonna beat you. So if we knew that we were losing, again, we lost 2 bodies off the break, we would ring that right away, because we know, let's get the 5 out again, we'll have a better chance, and it would usually pay off for us. So keeping that mentality going, you have to have that mentality in the professional league.
Yeah, and if we play you guys, I hope to God you guys have that mentality. I love it.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
I will. I'll say it. Yeah, just let's play as many points as possible. We love that. Let's do it.
Awesome. No, I love it. That's smart.
Yeah.
And it's so important to run. That's why we run situational, mini matches, or even a match at layout practices, right? Coaches need practice too. Coaches need practice calling lines. They need practice managing the clock. They need, adjustments, making adjustments. So yeah, I get it.
I want to add too, you made a comment kind of about your pit demeanor and staying calm, especially during the storms. And I just want to add, I think that as you guys mature and develop, that is going to pay dividends. Mm-hmm. That's going to pay because and it's rare too for a young professional team to come in and have a calm demeanor. I know that certainly when I was with Notorious, like, the pit would get just chaos. I mean, it would just be chaos in there, and trying to calm things down, and also call the next line, create the next play, and do all the things I was having to do, and then also to babysit the pit became it's unmanageable. Right. Yeah. It literally becomes unmanageable. So, you guys already kind of having that culture and structure inside the pit, as you guys develop, certainly I believe will pay you dividends. So
for sure.
Yeah. Kudos.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll second that, by the way, 100%. A cool, calm, collected pit, half the battle.
Exactly.
Yeah, anytime you look at the camera goes like into the Dynasty pit or to our pit or to Impact, like if you look at the top teams when they're in the pit, it's very calm. Like, there's a lot of great discussion happening. Usually everybody's kind of huddled up around the coach or really close to where they can hear what's going on, and everything's really calm, right? There's not chaos. Even with the pit guys, like if you see the pit guys kind of running around frantically, usually the players begin to get a little bit frantic, right? Like, you just notice things are really calm. They're very, they're almost in slow motion in there. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. I was going to mention, again, I talked to you guys briefly before we jumped on the show, but your guys' match was incredible to watch. Again, I was right there next to you guys. I was honestly on the Dynasty side of things, but I wanted to point out that during that, I'm sorry, I just where the bench was, right? That's sure, where it was. Sure. But
I get it. I get it.
Just to the point of these guys were down. They were down and out, right? But the pits were calm at every given second, and the guys are just really trying to work on how are we going to come back, right? Not people flipping out, being upset. Dynasty is known for that, right? That's why you guys are the champions of this entire industry, right? You have your track record in that aspect. You don't get there by being crazy and doing all these things that we're saying not to do, right? You got to remain calm, point by point. Hear your teammates out, see what they need, what can be fixed, what can be changed, and just go out there and win the next point. But I can testify to the calmness of your pit. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go on your pit ride, but
It's fine.
I'm
You
sure
can
it's
go
the
see
same.
it on film. You can see it on film.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah.
calm in there. And that's
I'll,
fine.
I'll send it to you, Chris.
Okay, sounds good.
Actually, when we play you guys, Chris, just come over to our pit, hang out. And we can see how calm it is.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
No, definitely not. But again, I that calm, collected pit is a critical factor. Again, Mike mentioned this earlier, and we talk about it a lot on the show. Being successful in a tournament, what's happening on the field is about half of what's really going on, right? And really the performance and the product that you put out there is really 10% of what's going on, right? It's the preparation leading up. It's the scouting, it's the tracking, it's the adjustments that you make match to match to match. Like what the product ends up being is really about 10% of the work, but inside the match, it's like half, right? It's like half the work that's happening, but it takes a lot of things to make it go the way it's supposed to go. Yeah. A lot of things. So, well, you guys want to talk about Atlantic City?
Well, I don't want to forget that question you starred.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about, so we're getting into Atlantic City. We can talk about, let's talk about the bracket. So your AC bracket, you get to play Edmonton Impact again, and you also get to play Tampa Bay Damage. You play the New Orleans Hurricanes. You play Tauntaun FSU. So Andrew Ormsby asked, what are your achievable short-term goals and what are your achievable long-term goals? Great question. This dude watches the show.
Yes, he knows. He knows.
So great question, right? Short-term goals is getting everyone on board for the upcoming practices that we have leading into the event, learning and applying everything that we've learned from this prior event. Key focuses on preparation, as we've talked about this entire show, right? Everyone being ready and knowing and understanding the level that we need to be at to compete, to go against these teams, especially the bracket that we have now. Me particularly, we're going back to foundation basics a little bit, honestly, being transparent. Sometimes you got to take a step back. And so that's why I was mentioning before our lanes, after playing Impact and seeing the lanes that these guys have off break, that just shows the work ethic that these guys have practicing the little things, right? Everyone thinks it's about playing points after points after points. They're on top for a reason, right? You guys are on top for a reason because you guys are doing these things that other teams are not doing. Even to extend on that, a mistake that not a mistake, but something that we really are going to be changing going forward as well is, for example, we're shooting certain quality. We're shooting 3-star paint at practices from GI, but I am now for that practice we have coming up, Ryan. We're going to make sure we got some 5-star paint for you guys. Because we need to see where our lanes are off break, right? We need to see what's working and what's not. We can't take the chance of, is this bouncing or not? Whereas a divisional team, sometimes you don't even have that option, right? You go into an event not knowing are your lanes correct, no matter how hard you try, right? And at this level, that's the detail of make or break. That I've learned for sure, right? I know you guys know it. I'm sure you guys shooting 5-star paint. Whatever your paint sponsors are, right?
We're both GI. So.
Both GI. Okay, just want to make sure, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's a big difference maker for us. Just alone in that is practicing our lanes, and then we're going back to our communication as well. Communication has always been a little bit of a big issue for us, and it's something that we're constantly trying to work on. We are improving. Again, not having those core guys, which are kind of those anchors on the field of that communication, it's a little tough, but so I guess we'll get into this again into the AC event. But short-term goals, I think that kind of accomplishes that, right? We're going to be focusing on that these upcoming weeks. And long-term goals are just honestly continuing what we learn at each event. Again, this is an entire learning experience for us. It's our first year that we're doing it. At a certain point, we obviously know that we don't want to take last, right? We need to stay in the league. So we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves either. We can start naming multiple things that we could all probably work on, but let's take the little by little, apply it at the event, at the practices, and at the event, and see what we can do based off of that. I think.
So short-term goals: obtaining better paint for practices, working our
Yes.
lanes, and making sure our comms, we're focusing on comms and not accepting subpar comms. Long-term goal, and I'm going to translate this for you.
There you go.
Long-term goal is not get last.
Not get last. There you go. Not get last.
You really you need to make one Sunday.
Yeah.
You need to make one Sunday. Like if you can get out of one of your brackets, you know, where you can be 2-2 or 3-1, put yourself into a Sunday.
Yeah.
You kind of get yourself out of that danger zone, right?
Yep.
It's tough to get relegated if you make a Sunday. But in this year, last year, you could have made a Sunday and still gotten relegated, right?
Right.
You know, fortunately, the team that did get relegated didn't make any Sundays, but if they would have made one, I think they still get relegated. So
yeah.
It's this year, I think it's going to be a little bit different. You know, I don't know for sure, but, you know, we've kind of been talking about it for the last couple of months. You know, I do think there is a distinct top and bottom this year, which we didn't have last year. And I only say that because we have so many new teams, right? There's 4 basically brand new teams kind of in the league, or mixed up teams in the league that we really didn't have last year. I mean, obviously Paintball Fit has solidified themselves as the best team in the world right now until they're proven otherwise. And then really those next 6 or 7, really 8 teams are probably where they're going to be, you know? And then the rest, I think, will probably get mixed up. Get mixed up. And I do think damage is going to move up, I think. I think X Factor is going to move up, you know, just based on who they are. I think they'll move up. But I think those other teams don't move around too much, you know. We'll see, right? Layout, it makes a huge difference. We've experienced that. Layout makes a huge difference. So for you guys, it's really just about being able to get yourself into a Sunday, right? Get yourself into a Sunday.
I definitely agree with that. I think if we would have won those 2 matches, I think our bracket, because of how close it was with all the other games too, I think it would have disrupted it a lot. I think we potentially could have made it in.
Because of the 2 big losses, unfortunately, I did that math. Unfortunately, because of the 2 big losses, you still would have been out, but you would have been in like 13th.
Yeah, I was going to say 14th, probably 14th or something.
Yeah,
but
you would have been 13th or 14th.
I want to share something with you that my friend Yosh Rao shared recently on an interview he did with on the Shelda podcast. By the way, if you're not watching the Shelda podcast, check it out. It's very good.
Yeah, you're missing a lot.
You're missing a lot because he's doing it. I think the human aspect is really cool on that show. But Yosh Rao said this, and it was so refreshing to hear, because the paintball community is all about, what have you done for me lately? And the paintball community is all about winning, 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 winning. It's about getting first place. It's all about these things. But when you're a new pro team, or you're a divisional team, or whatever your circumstance is, you can be winning without winning. If you're meeting goals that are moving you in the right direction, that are moving that needle, then you're winning.
Right.
So I think you need to take that perspective a little bit. I think he's absolutely right. Long-term goals, let's not get less. Let's really aim for a Sunday. Let's find a Sunday. Let's find our way into it. And let's meet those goals. You know, Alex Frazee was joking with me the other day after, you know, when we got second, he's like, well, at least we fended off relegation. And I'm like, maybe, you know, but find those positive aspects, right? And that's a question I wanted to get into real quick. What was some of the positive takeaways you guys got out of this last event?
Great question, right? I think we touched upon a couple of them in terms of the guys, again, didn't have expectations in terms of we're gonna go out there and play semi-professional year, every event, like we could not lose one single match, right? We were competing to get into to win the pro spot. Not that the mentality here is any different, that we don't care if we get last, right? But we're starting fresh, we're starting new. We know the expectations of who we're going up against, and we just want to be able to put on a show and show people that we can ball and we deserve to be up here. So I think the biggest takeaway is that, again, we did accomplish that. We showed teams that we are capable of being in this division with everyone else. Had those two close matches that, again, if penalties were not there, people didn't get shot stupid, we could have potentially won and at least got some wins under our belt, official wins, right? To be able to say, hey, instead of going 0-4. But that was a huge part. The other part, which is a really positive part, is, again, I think we got a lot of respect from the players. Our players got respect from other players from teams, which definitely lifted spirits in that aspect. Again, the everyone, including you guys, the other teams, everyone was very welcoming. As much as everyone might think this is a cutthroat and everyone is kind of like out just to, like, go out there and win and everything, the community aspect, especially in the professional league, is amazing. It's everyone I talk to, whether it was players or some other coaches, everyone's open, willing to talk, share experiences, and just, we're all out here to have fun. It's not everyone is kind of like to themselves. So I think positives, we got our introduction. We learned what this is going to be like. We know the amount of work that we have to do to step it up. I think that's our core, like, positives that we took out of it. And ultimately wrapping it up, again, we know what we have to work on, our lanes, our communication. We really homed in on what is it going to take to change this up, because we cannot continue doing the same thing, right? So a lot of positives and a lot of learning for both as a coach, as players learn what's expected out of there. Yeah.
You can literally do all the right things though and still not win. It's
Of
just
course.
that's how this thing works, right? And I love that you brought up, because we talk about it a lot on this show, like how kick-ass the community is. Like in the pit area in the back, like it is a brotherhood back there.
Yeah.
Like everybody is supporting each other, and you guys will find this as you continue to be around in the pit. But like you create conversations with people that pick up right where they left off the next time you see them at the next event, right? Like it really is a brotherhood back there. And now when you're in between the nets, it's different, right? But as soon as the match is over, or again, even when people are watching you play other teams, like they're supporting you. Like they want to see you do well. I mean, I was in the VIP watching your match with Aftershock, and Tom Cole is cheering for you.
Mm-hmm.
He's literally in there screaming, let's go Leverage. Because it's important to the league that all the teams are good, right? Like it creates a better story. We want the young teams to do well, not quite take the throne like Paintball Fit has done. They've, kind of come in like Paintball Fit has done sort of in the last two divisions they've been in. They've come in and taken the throne, but we want to see the teams do well. And to be clear, I want to see Paintball Fit do well too, because it makes all of us have to get better. Exactly. We have to get better, right?
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
Somebody was talking about minimum expectation of communication in here. We could literally have an entire show talking about communication. And I want to add that every paintball team on planet Earth is working on communication at some different level.
Mm-hmm.
Every single, literally, I'm in Tampa, Florida right now, training Red Legion. Last week, we trained Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all 3 days had communication-based drills. We trained Saturday, communication-based drill. We implemented Sunday in our games, communication-based stuff. And we played 4-on-5 to start down a player every single point, to start with a deficit and work out with communication how we were going to go win the point. And so every team on planet Earth is working on communication just at a different level. So
Right.
the minimum, again, we could have an entire show just on communication.
I responded and gave a bare minimum, right? Hey,
Okay.
did you know the situation? What was your up body? What was your down body?
Yes.
Who has the ball? What's our clock?
Yeah.
So just
Who has
basic.
the ball is a little more advanced depending on what division you're in. But that was part of our communication drill last week, was understanding advantage and disadvantage, and then what do you do?
Right.
What's the advantage when you have it? How are you going to attack it? And then if you're in a disadvantage, how are you going to defend your disadvantage or weakness? Do you go to it, or do you go close on the other side? Like, do you flip the field, or do you try to fend off what you can over here and try to get a kill?
And it's layout based.
Total layout dependent.
Totally
kind
layout
of, right?
based.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. If you can spin the other, we did it on the Tampa layout. We did most of our drills on the Tampa layout. But
and I also want to add one last comment that communication, there needs to be simplicity. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to have a code for every scenario. Right. So,
and you really don't want it. You don't really want a code for everything.
You don't.
Like, just having a simple conversation while you're on the field. Like, I always start, when people ask me about communication, I always ask them, where'd you get your shoes? Do you like them? Do they fit well? This is the same conversation we can have on the field, just talking about the field. Like, we don't have to be screaming at each other. We don't have to be, for some reason, when somebody takes a 50 bunker, especially with younger teams, you guys freak out. Players start to scream, oh my God, he's in the 50. You got to look that way. And then every gun on the field goes whoop. And then the guy comes this way.
Exactly.
So, So again, we could have an entire show just talking about communication.
We could.
Yeah.
We may have to do that.
And we would bore the hell out of you.
We really would.
I'd be showing you all the code libraries that I have saved.
or that would actually be part of it, because some of the code names would be quite humorous, I'm sure, and what they mean.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great for you guys to definitely maybe do a divisional, maybe segment on something like that, because I've definitely realized a lot of the divisional teams aren't obviously on the level of, let's say, for communication, where you guys just mentioned who has the ball, right? There's every professional team understands what that means. Our call is champion. Who's the champion on the field? Yep. So when these teams find, there you go, you'd still watch it, right? These teams kind of find themselves stuck in a situation in the mid game, mid to late game. They don't know who's supposed to do what, right? So when you have that who's got the ball or your champion call, you're telling that guy, it's you got the ball in your court. It's you got to go shut down this game, right? Yeah, we're doing whatever we're doing here to hold it off, or we've reached as far as we can go, and we're holding up guns, whatever the case may be. But I'm sure it'd be very beneficial, for some of those lower guys.
All right, I'm willing. I'm in. Let's do a communication-based show.
All right.
It may be the most boring show we do.
You know how we make it interesting? We bring in a bunch of different coaches and a bunch of different players to all just kind of random times to give their input.
Love it.
There you
go. Jay Alexander. I think we've opened a can of worms. So
I was going to say, listen, I mean, it might be boring, but it's probably going to be one of the most beneficial things that a lot of these people will watch, especially coming from you guys and anyone else that'll be on this show. It's the little things,
tough,
man.
But it's tough with active pro coaches for them. Like all of the stuff I would be showing is old stuff.
Right.
It's like stuff I have. Yeah. It's stuff I have from other things. Like it would all still be relevant, but like, I'm not going to put Red Legion's codes on the show.
Right. Yeah.
That's not a good idea.
You don't have to go to that extent, but you got to have a call for this, right? So I'm sure you guys can get creative about it.
Oh, but I have like 10 code libraries from different teams that I've coached over the years, or even like I'm working on our coaches clinics, trying to build out all of our, I want to have like 10, I want to have 10 curriculums done kind of by the end of the year so that Mike and I can start putting more of that content on BKI. And I'm working on the communication one, which is going to be like 2.5, class 2. Literally, we haven't even done 1.3 with most people yet, which we're going to do. Yeah, which we're going to do in Cincinnati, right? Cleveland, wherever we're going. Cincinnati. I keep messing that one up. But we're going to do that one. So worst code name. Yeah, that's a good one. Worst code name.
I'm not sharing that one. I can't share it. I can't.
Yeah, it's foul
Yeah.
words. Yeah.
it's
Mine, the worst code I've ever heard was foul words.
yeah, same.
Yeah.
So it was funny because of the way it was put together, because it was 2 words, but it was funny. But no.
Well, let's close this thing out, kind of finishing up with Atlantic City. So impact, damage, hurricanes, Tauntaun, FSU. Again, you have an incredibly hungry impact. Same with damage, right? Impact is built to win tournaments. Tampa Bay is built to win tournaments. Really felt like they underperformed at the last event. The New Orleans Hurricanes played really well. Excited to see kind of what they bring to Atlantic City. Tauntaun's also incredibly hungry. Know they underperformed. And then you guys kind of in the same boat. Like your pool, impact, damage, I think hurricanes, we can add them to we're pretty sure those 3 teams are going to be good. Yep. Tauntaun, FSU is kind of a question mark still. You guys kind of still a question mark. So knowing obviously you're going to play more than likely here, I can actually pull the schedule up. Do you know, have you seen your schedule yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
What do you mean? Like the
like who you play first?
You played the teams?
Oh, yeah. No, not yet. No.
Okay. All right. Mike's looking it up, so I'm not going to waste time with that.
Yeah,
but it's like, what is the expectation, right? Like knowing the teams you're going to play, do you have like we want to try to be 2-2, we want to try to be 1-3, we want to try to win the pool? Here's why I ask. We had Colt Lookow on the show last week, and I loved his response to this. Mm-hmm. I asked him, do you go into every tournament for the rest of the year? Is your goal to win every tournament? And he said, yes. And our goal last year was to win every tournament. Like that was their goal. We want to win every single tournament. And I was like, okay, I kind of love that, right? Like Mike and I talk all the time about reasonable goals, reasonable expectation. And they kind of went in with totally unreasonable goals and unreasonable expectation, but have held themselves sort of that standard of we are here to win the tournament, and look where they are, right? Yep. So there's got to be a lot to be said for the fact that that kind of attitude and resiliency has led them to where they are. So like kind of what's your group's expectation? Have you guys talked about this?
So this weekend's going to be a great weekend for us because we're finally going to be able to have everyone back all together. It's going to be, we've had some issues with scheduling conflicts. People have had injuries. I'll kind of touch upon everything, but going into this event, what's going to be changing is, well, one, Brandon Domenico, he just went through a surgery himself. So he had to get some sort of hernia surgery, which he's doing well, thank God. But this is a player that, again, that we no longer have for this event coming up. Another body that we're losing for practice.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So you guys are finding out kind of a little bit more of the back end than what we had to deal with going into this. It was all kind of a little bit unexpected, and some of it was expected. But the good thing is we do have our captain Zach coming back. Double knee surgery guy. He's very excited to be coming back. Would love for you guys to meet him at some point. I'll sure to introduce you guys at the event. But great guy, founder of the team. And the point is, he'll be back. I'm not gonna say that we're gonna run him 100%. We're gonna be strategic about it. Of course, I don't want to blow this guy's knees out again. But that's the commitment that this guy has. Paintball is his life. It's all of our lives, right? If I would have got double knee surgery, I don't think you'd catch me on the field ever again. Yes. So, but this is the level of commitment that this guy has, and he is giving everything he's got into his rehab and making sure that he can play and be on the field again, knowing that the team, he's a big part of the team. He's a big communication guy on our team. And just a highly skilled player. So he'll be back. And in addition, we will have Frank back as well. Huge key player of our team as well, right up there with Caputo. Just a huge part of the team that we did not have this first event. Both of those guys will be back going for AC. I think that is going to help us a lot and minimize those mistakes that we made, first of all. We're going to be able to shoot people off break because these are really our top two guys who shoot people off break that we did not have. Goal wise, the goal for us always is we want to be the best, right? I think that should be the mentality of everyone, right? But it's got to be realistic, achievable. After the first event, you definitely get a reality check. That's the truth of it, right? You could think we're gonna go out there and win this whole professional tournament first event, right? You should have an attitude that we want to win.
You can, sure.
Right? You can. Anyone can, right? Going into this event, knowing where we're weak, the situations that we're in, we have to be realistic with ourselves. And I think you said it before. For us, it's really about making Sunday. We just want to make one Sunday. Our past history as leverage just kind of happens to us. We start off at the bottom, but you'll eventually start seeing us climb those ranks, and we've done it throughout all the divisions that we played. Before I was on the team, and even when I joined the team. But this team, we tend to not make the same mistakes twice. We learn from it, and we make sure it doesn't happen again. And we just try to be better every time we go out there, I guess. I mean, hopefully that's the best way of putting it out.
That's right.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
I've got the schedule. I wonder if I can present it.
Sure.
Let's see what we can do. Let's see. Sharing screen is easiest with two monitors.
Where you can click present down at the bottom.
That's what I did.
Yep.
Window.
Okay.
I think I want to
window.
share this one. Is that working? Let's see. Add the stage. There it is.
There we go.
Tiny for you to see, though.
Blow it up.
I'm trying. Hang on.
Control plus.
Control plus. There it is. No, that's the wrong one. I keep blowing up the wrong screen. Anyway, here's what you got. You've got 9 a.m. You've got the Hurricanes.
Yep.
And then the Tampa Bay Damage at 11. And then on Saturday, you start the morning off at 8 a.m. with Tauntaun FSU. And then 10 a.m. against Edmonton Impact, sir.
Yes. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Day one, you're gonna have to get after it.
Day one is going to be a tough one.
It definitely will. We will be at that Thursday practice for sure. That's already booked. Not making that mistake twice again.
Who are you playing?
We're going to be. I believe we're playing Ironman.
Okay, good.
I believe so. So I believe that's who we're going to be playing. But I did want to just kind of. I know we're wrapping this up. I did want to mention some things I was talking about. The guys definitely. Again, with all the circumstances that we had, the players that we had, Travis Baskin, Chris Sanborn, Ricky Moran, Alfred De Los Santos, we have Dom DeVito. Who am I missing? We had Brandon Domenico. But the point is, a lot of these guys stepped up. That was another huge, great positive feedback that thing to look at in terms of the team, that these bench players really stepped it up when they needed to. And these guys were taking it a lot more serious, knowing that they performed that well in the first event, and now we're going to have these two other guys back, and it's really looking good for us. I believe that we have a great attitude going into it. I'm really happy with the guys, how they performed. And just another note, I guess, maybe for the guys watching the show too, maybe a little bit more personal, I think it'd be cool to say, being in the professional league and the difference, it's really cool in terms of the sponsors and kind of being at the event. Again, besides the team community that we have there, the sponsor community is really great too. The whole weekend, everyone was taking care of us, welcoming us. Just a great event overall for us as our first event, something we'll never forget,
Yeah, it's great.
It is good. Do you want to thank any sponsors, specific sponsors?
Of course. I mean, we have GI, we have JT, we have Filthy Streetwear, we have Quick Shot that we've been playing out of, Planet Eclipse, we want to thank everyone, man, not just the sponsors, our friends, families that have supported us this whole time, right? You guys for having me on the show, getting me, teaching me things. I'm always learning. There's no ego here on my side. We're just here to learn. That's how I approach my entire life, right? I'm sure you guys do too. So it's a fun experience. I love it. I can't wait for the rest of the year. I want these guys to show you guys and the rest of the world that we can ball and we can be up there in this division with you guys. We want to stay there.
I love it. Excellent.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. Chris, thank you so much. We appreciate you for taking the time, man, and look forward to watching the remainder of your journey. And yeah, man, hopefully you guys can put it together and stay out of the relegation discussion.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we don't start having that until like, kind of right after event 3, but hopefully you guys can figure it out, man. And I love the fact that you came in and were totally open and vulnerable about like, we prepared like shit, right? Like the product looked like shit because we prepared like shit, right? And that's that's really important, right? And you didn't make excuses. Some coaches, they're like, the refs were out to get us, or the paint was bad, right? And I've been there. I've been one of those coaches, and it's tough. It's really hard when you come in with the attitude that you did. I think it says, number one, a lot about your character, but then number two, a lot about kind of the direction probably leverage that we'll see leverage go, right?
Okay.
Yeah, being able to understand like, hey, the onus is on us, and we got to be better. And could have won 2 matches, but had penalty issues, and I think that speaks a lot about you as a man. So we appreciate having you on, and look forward to getting you back on to talk again. We keep kind of notes as we have people on the show and talk about, okay, last time we had you on, kind of here were your goals.
Right.
I didn't bring your stuff in from the last one because obviously we know the reality of the first event. Right. So, hopefully we can be talking the next time we have you on, we can talk about the Sunday you made.
I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having me on as always. And it's been fun. And I'm looking at seeing you guys at the event. Ryan, I'll be seeing you soon in a couple weeks, right? So
man, you don't see me. I don't have to show up to the events until the Wednesday before the event.
Okay.
I don't have to go to prep. I don't have to go, I don't have to do any of that. But I do have to spend, I'm in Florida for 3 weeks. So
got it.
My time is I was hired with Red Legion to help with the training process. So I'm here for 3 weeks now. I go to Tampa to Atlantic City the Wednesday before, and then I leave on Monday, but then I'm only home a week, and I literally turn around and come right back to Tampa. So,
okay.
Yeah. So you won't see me until the tournament.
Got it.
Unless something changes, but yeah.
Okay.
I don't have to go to the prep.
Got it. All right. Yeah. Well, we'll see you then. All right.
I have the best job.
Looking forward to seeing you there.
I have the best job in paintball. See you, buddy.
Oh man, I love it. I love the
what a great episode.
That whole thing about. I love how you finished with the fact that you gave him the respect about the accountability. 100%.
Yeah, I loved that, man.
Yeah,
loved that. It was awesome to. He didn't put on any airs, right? Just kind of did his thing.
Doesn't strike me as one who would. By the way, if you guys get a chance, you need to check this thing out. This is a book of photographs done by Nigel D'Souza, and it is something else. And he's got another one coming out too. It's in black and white. It was all done in 35 millimeter.
Yeah, I see him shooting on that thing all the time.
Yeah, I wanted to share that real quick because I've been enjoying looking. That's why it's in my office. I've been sit here and you'll be on a conference call and you're like, yeah, keep talking.
Yeah.
When you're talking guys, management and HR.
Mike had a crazy meeting today. He's a little agitated about it. So, ICPL. Jarrett Anderson says ICPL Dallas photos are epic. Huh? Yeah, I'm sure they are. Very muddy. Very muddy. I was there. It was fun. Yeah, Jared. Thanks again. We will do a comms episode. We'll make it happen. So next week, we're going to have Coach Daniel Lee of Femmes Fatale on talk about kind of their win at the last event. And then the next week, we're going to do a pre-NXL EU show. So hopefully everybody gets their stupid rosters up because I know in Europe they don't like to put rosters out because they think they have some sort of secret sauce that they're going to add to the roster later.
It's true.
Please, if you're listening to this and you're one of the EU coaches, get your stupid roster up so we can talk about you.
Yes.
This episode has been brought to you by Max Sportswear. If you're playing the NXL Regional League, contact Charles today for contingency details. If you want to elevate your game, join BKI, new platform and content coming soon. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you to Major League Paintball for all of the support. Darren Cessna, Kevin Fillers, Alex Sorensen, and Tom Cole. Next week, as I said, Daniel Lee, Femmes Fatale. As always, I'm Ryan Gray with Mike Bianca. Be responsible.
Good night.